Okay, guys, hello everyone, and welcome to the Leadership and Agile Summit. Before we begin, let's talk little bit about who we are. Here at GAP, Growth Acceleration Partner, or GAP as we usually call it, we consult, design, build, and modernize software and data solutions, specifically focusing on revenue generating and mission critical applications that are core to our client business. This Leadership and Agile Summit is our newest festival designed to share the very best practices within technical leadership. And for that, we have a very special talk today that is titled Using AI Without Sacrificing Your Autonomy. That's going to be led by Sergio Morales. Sergio is a principal data engineer and serves as a subject matter expert for data and AI. Additionally, he helps shape the next generation of experts as a professor of the postgraduate data program at Sempotech. So please join me in welcoming Sergio. And Sergio, the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here today. And let me talk about some of the feelings that I've been having about AI lately, there's many of them. So, as Camilo mentioned, this talk is called Using AI Without Sacrificing Your Autonomy, which I think you can kind of guess what that direction is going to be. I've added a subtitle that says Preserving Control in the Age of Cognitive Delegation, which is a little bit of a handful, but we'll walk through everything and hopefully you'll end up feeling the same way I do, or at least having some more thoughts to to add your palette in terms of AI matters. So, first, let me introduce myself. Camilo already did a fantastic job. Again, I'm a computer scientist by profession. I am part of the Data and AI Subject Matter Experts group, and I'm also involved with the corresponding Center of Excellence as a regular contributor, which means I get to think a lot about AI and have conversations with people that are not only looking to integrate AI into their processes as clients of ours, but I'm also in conversations that are occurring internally within GAP about how to improve our processes, how to integrate these tools into our work to day-to-day work in a way that makes sense and is efficient and does not fall into the many pitfalls that we, I bet, are already very familiar with when it comes to working with these tools. So I want to talk about the two different ways in which, or the two different streams of thought that kind of led to this presentation for me. The first one of them being, as I said, I've been having a lot of time to think about how automating processes through the use of AI makes us sort of sacrifice a little bit of our autonomy when we are doing so, which is really nothing new. Historically, every set of automation tools have taken away some of our control on and traded for time savings and effort savings. We can think about simple assembly lines that both uh, make our work easier because we're not having to assemble things manually every time, especially when we're talking about mass production of commodities. Um, but we are also retaining a lot of our autonomy in that example because we are the ones designing the pipeline. We are the ones designing how things are being built and what steps are being reproduced and in what order, which is really not the case for AI. Right. So if you think of automation and autonomy as two kind of opposing levers, and whenever you pull on the automation lever, the autonomy one kind of goes down, it you can see how the different kinds of automation kind of make the autonomy lever go further or just move just a tiny little bit. So again, when it comes to physical delegation, it's very easy to have accountability. And if something goes wrong, it's very explicitly because we screwed up in terms of designing how the pipeline was going to work. It's also very good usually at letting us know something failed because when a pipeline fails, when a production pipeline fails, there's a very obvious error stating that it's halted or it is suspended for an amount of time until you get to fix it, and then it resumes working. Afterwards, we can maybe think about information delegation or calculation delegation when we start orchestrating more complex processes using control structures like the ones us engineers are well acquainted with, such as if then branching or loops or things like that, in which we are still retaining our autonomy because we are the ones dictating how things are going to work internally. And again, whenever something fails, if we had the foresight to prevent it or to at least identify it, there are clear error states that show and signal that something has failed and we should probably either redesign the process or take a look at it and see what went wrong. Now, AI is uniquely suited for kind of pushing that balance completely off kilter in a way that makes it such that it's very difficult to identify error states. It's very difficult to identify when things are not going like we want them to go. And we are kind of taking on non-deterministic tasks in a way that also allows the AI to make decisions in ways that we may not be able to track, in ways that um, hides its accountability. So these are some of the thoughts that I've been having again regarding how processes should be implemented and what the risks are associated with AI. Now, I mentioned two streams of thought that kind of led to this webinar, and the second one is this book right here. That's called The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. I recently participated in a mentorship process. As Camilo mentioned, I'm a professor, and I participated in a mentorship with young women who are students of computer engineering and other adjacent careers, data adjacent. And we use this book kind of as a skeleton for this mentorship process because it's really, well, to begin with, it is a very simple popular science book on how to design things. And I'm not specifically talking about software, but just things. So, how do chairs work? How do they communicate that they are meant to be sat on? How do they communicate if they can be folded up for easy storage? How do you communicate how a thing is meant to be used in general, and how all of these like signifiers and signs are conveyed in a way that leads the user to use it in a successful way. So this is again a fantastic book. I thought that it related perfectly to not only again pure design properties, but also even communicating with other humans, selling ideas to other people. And I have a lot of thoughts about how it connects to AI tools and the way that they have been portrayed historically. And by historically, I mean for the last two and something years, specifically with Gen AI. So this is a quote from that book. If you think something is clever and sophisticated, beware, it is probably self-indulgence. And I feel like that's a pitfall that many of the designers working on current AI tools have fell into. So we'll go a little more into that later. But for now, let's resume the first stream of thought, in which what I was saying was AI is uniquely challenging when it comes to automation, because we are not just delegating repetitive actions in a way that we ourselves orchestrate and in a way in which we understand the entire process from beginning to end. It is automating expertise and judgment. And when we let an algorithmic product or an algorithmic object take care of these aspects of work, we are giving away and we are ceding our own knowledge and autonomy and giving it to the model, right? To whatever it is that we are automating. And this is not something new because machine learning has existed for a while. The Center of Excellence for Analytics that I'm a part of has been working with machine learning models for the better part of a decade. And they are not deterministic. They are also somewhat obscure. They are also hard to understand what's going on inside. But there is a degree of control that we have over them, and they are strictly like technical components, software components that have inputs and outputs, and we can measure their states and see, evaluate how well they're doing. Gen AI, in contrast, makes it harder to show that this is a vulnerability or to portray this as a threat because of the way that it's being packaged and how its capabilities are being portrayed, which can be especially misleading. And this connects back to the concept that I was talking about in terms of how to communicate what a product does that the book by Don Norman was talking about. So there is this autonomy paradox that we have run into. We want efficiency, we want processes to take less time, we want to have to do less effort, but we risk sitting and diluting the knowledge that defines our expertise. And by diluting, I largely mean in a way that can be very easily understood that if I am letting a model take care of high risk or critical business decisions that are not led through the lens of business expertise or institutional knowledge that has been accumulated, which is the case for like the people that actually work for the company. What I'm letting it do is take decisions based on generic knowledge from whatever knowledge base it has been trained on, which, you know, as we all know, is just basically the entire internet and internet comments and books and things like that. So to be a little bit more concrete, I'm going to talk a little bit about what threatens our autonomy specifically when we talk about AI tools and when we implement them into our processes. Not only as technical components. I'm an engineer and I have been implementing AI into solutions for a while, but I'm not talking here about software components specifically. I'm talking about processes from hiring to education and knowledge sharing to other processes that I know are being actively reevaluated in the light of the available tools. So, the first one, which is probably the most obvious one, is what I would call the erosion of expertise. So, when we constantly follow what I call first impulse problem solving and AI recommendations, we stop developing our expert muscle memory. So, what do I mean by first impulse problem solving? Well, AI lends itself to this pitfall really, really well, and it's hidden it behind the appearance of expertise. And what do I mean by this? So let's say, and I'm going to be talking about another example later, so let's use that one to introduce it now. Let's say that we want to turn this very webinar into a blog post. So we're going to take the transcript to this webinar and we're going to turn it into a blog post. And the first impulse problem solving here is I'm just going to feed that entire transcript to the AI service of my choice, and I'm going to ask it to turn it into a blog post. So instead of dwelling with how to actually solve the problem or how I envision that it could be solved, I'm just completely ceding my autonomy to the machine in a way that gives it all of the decision making. It gives it all of the power. So in that sense, any institutional knowledge that I could have integrated into the solution, any sort of iterative approach that I could have implemented into the solution, is completely gone in favor of a product or a result that is probably not going to be great. It's not going to be in line with the expectations of the company blog, probably. It might miss the main points that I want to convey in this presentation, especially this one, which is kind of a mess. And I'm also stopping to develop my muscle memory in terms of being a writer, in terms of being able to express ideas like the ones that I am providing now in the form of a blog post, right? And that is a very simple example, but we could extend that to technical problems. So if I am tackling a technical problem that is the result of a very complex query over a database or something like that, if I again ask for the first impulse solution from an AI tool, like for example asking for again, the result of a very complex query that involves aggregation and filtering and things like that, which could otherwise be decomposed into separate steps. I am again ceding the entirety of how to solve that problem towards the AI and shifting the responsibility towards an element that essentially has no capacity for judgment. So beyond that, how do we make the most of the time and effort savings that AI potentially represents while not giving up that expertise? And again, I'm talking about academical, professional, and most importantly, institutional expertise, which is very poorly represented in any data set the AI might have fed from, unless it is using some sort of a specific backing for its knowledge base. And furthermore, what does this mean for future generations of experts? So, how do we give them the chance to actually exercise that expertise and judgment and critical thinking if it is discouraged in favor of speed by company policies? So, all of these, again, are very real concerns that I think we should consider. The next thread that I wanted to talk about is turning AI into an accountability black box. So again, automated decisions often happen in opaque systems, especially when these decisions are the result of non-deterministic components like AI and generative AI. And again, this is not new. AI models have existed for a long time, but it's been revitalized by AI responses. The uh, ease with which you can invoke an AI model and have it uh, generate an answer. And the pitfall is extremely well hidden because there is very little to tell us whether the process has failed at any point, whether any of the information is wrong, and the onus of who is of whether the of finding out whether the model was correct or not falls completely on the user. So furthermore, to make this even worse, decisions generated by algorithmic and automated systems historically have always given the impression of authority and offer very little to no accountability. And what this means is it's very easy to hide behind a machine when a decision is made in a way that both puts some vulnerable population in a worse position because they have very little recourse to address or question decisions that have been made by these automated systems. And also, there is really no one to point a finger to when one of these systems fail because again because of the way the process works, it's so obscure and it's so unpredictable that it would be actually unfair to point to someone specific and kind of lay the blame on them for a decision that an LLM made or for a prescriptive result that an LLM made. And there are often no processes of accountability designed when these are put into place. Furthermore, as we all know, preconceptions and biases that are present in training datasets can be perpetuated and reinforced by poorly designed systems, and this just fits back into the previous point. Now, for a little detour, I wanted to talk before moving on to the next thread about these three concepts, which are actually introduced in the book that I mentioned earlier, The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. And these are not exactly academical terms. Again, that book is very approachable. It's not an academic book. I hugely recommend it. It's full of very fun anecdotes and things like that. But it does introduce, amongst the many concepts that it introduces, these three that I think are particularly important to understand for my next point, which are signifiers, affordances, and the gulf of evaluation. So when evaluating any object that has any use for humans, a signifier can be understood as a cue, a label, or any visible indicator that explicitly communicates where an action should be taken or what the result will be. So in the case of this folding chair that we have right here, we might have the handle, the hold, that the hole in the backrest that you can see there is a very clear signifier of that being the point where it's supposed to be held. So again, very straightforward. That hole is a signifier for a place that a hand can fit through. And if, for example, the hinges had any sort of arrow to indicate what direction the share folds up for easy storage, then that would also be a signifier. An affordance is a property of an object that suggests what can be done with it. So what action it is physically and functionally possible for a user to perform with it. In this case, well, it very much looks like a chair. Of course, there is a social and kind of generic component to this in a way that it looks like a chair. You can probably sit on it. And the hinges that are quite visible also suggest the fact that it can be folded up. So those would be the affordances for this chair. And finally, the gulf of evaluation is the degree of difficulty that a user faces in understanding what the system's current state is and determining, crucially, if their action was successful. So for a chair, again, very straightforward and very easy. If you sit on it and it does not collapse and you are able to rest without standing up, then that's a very positive sign that it has worked. The same goes for folding the chair up. If it folds and then you can store it wherever you want, then that is also a successful state. It's also very easy to tell whether it is folded up or ready for someone to sit on it. So again, extremely simple example for these three concepts. Now let's apply these three concepts to this very familiar interface for AI services, for chatbots specifically. So, usually, whenever you log into any of the major chatbot providers, you're going to be facing a UI that looks very much like this one. In terms of signifiers, it's not great, specifically because signifiers are often there to prevent people from performing actions that are risky or that may induce failure. But as I mentioned, it's very easy both to ask the assistant for something that it can do well, like summarizing a text or coming up with ideas for a presentation, or many of the natural language tasks that these systems are well suited for. And it's equally as easy to ask it to diagnose someone who is very ill, or to make mathematical calculations when a calculator would be a better fit, or to, again, engage in tasks that would be better solved by deterministic processes or deterministic solutions. It's very hard for it to communicate. Again, you are doing something that might not be as successful as you expect it to. There are also misleading affordances in the sense that, as I just said, AI tools, even though they present themselves as that, are not Swiss Army knives. There are tasks that they are better suited to, and tasks that it's going to be very likely that it will fail, or at least it will incur in way more costs and expense of resources than it would take for us to solve the same problem with a deterministic approach. There's also ambiguous feedback in the sense that there are very few error states, and it's completely on the user to determine whether the citation that it has provided actually exists. We know that there's been very big profile news where people were misled into thinking that the citations that it provided were correct when they didn't even exist. And there is as much of an alert when that happens as when it is successful, as when I'm just asking for a summary and it very evidently gives me a summary back of whatever I provided first. So, and furthermore, I wanted to talk about how similar it is to a chat with an actual human. So it is very easy for it to, again, create a misleading affordance that I am talking with an expert or that I am talking with a cognitive entity at all, which this isn't. So again, the way that they have been packaged and the way that they have been portrayed puts the responsibility 100% on users, regardless of whether they are technical, regardless of whether they are executive in nature or they are more on the logistic side of a business, to realize whether both the tasks that it was intended to do was suitable for that tool, and if the result that it got back was correct or not. So again, what does this mean for both technical and managerial consumers and designers? So, after all that doom and gloom, what I want to talk about is some ways in which we might be able to retake control. So, I do believe that there is a way to use all of these tools for the benefit of our processes by just taking into consideration some careful notes. So, the first one is explicitly about designing affordances. And this goes for both designers of tools and processes, as well as consumers. So as designers, AI tools and any AI-enabled processes, again, it does not have to be the entire process, but maybe a process that has one AI component as part of it, should use these components for only a specific, low risk, and whenever possible, reversible actions. And in this way, we kind of regain some of that control back in the sense that we're going to have more feedback about something, about whether something is failing or not. And we are being very explicit about what task this AI object is executing. So again, maybe it is a matter of creating a pipeline with several AI components, each of which has a very specific task. Or maybe it is a combination of deterministic steps and AI-based components, yeah, that again have very bounded spaces for action and that are orchestrated in a way that we retain much of the autonomy of the task that we were given. As consumers, first of all, in the absence of tools designed this way, because again, as we can see, many of the very popular tools that are provided by major services look like chatbots essentially. And it is on us to be aware that this might be misleading. So we both should restrict our own impulses for, again, like one-shot solutions. The one that I was referring to earlier, where I just feed a document and say, give me the result as I want it to be. And instead, we should think about pipelines. We should divide and conquer. So I'm kind of giving away one of the examples that I have for later on. But if I was thinking on translating this webinar into a blog post, I might want to say, let's turn the transcript into chunks that are thematic in nature and then kind of split it up, give multiple prompts, introduce an expert in a way that they can lead the AI towards a workable solution, towards a better blog post that actually aligns with their original vision, and in this way create a much better result than the one that would have gotten if instead we just again fed it the transcript and said, go to town, create one single blog post from this, and let's be done. As a leadership role, I would say that it's important to have AI work within an expert's defined space and not instead of it. So, not ceding that autonomy, not shifting that decision making and judgment ability towards the machine. And I would even go so far as to say that this could make people resentful in the sense that, if I am an expert in a given subject, if I am a data engineering expert, which I hope I am, um, and I am being asked to generate interview questions about the data engineering, I would much rather use my own expertise and my own judgment and my own experience creating interview questions than being forced or having be forced to use questions that have been machine generated, especially if I bring along with me the institutional knowledge of both my company and my clients. So moving on to my next point, there's the necessity of clear signifiers. So for every high stakes decision, financial, legal, safety, strategic, establish a formal and mandatory human sign of gate, which again must be clearly signified. So make sign of gates and make human intervention a part of your process from the get-go. Do not wait until something fails or until you realize there is something going wrong and then add on some sort of supervision role as an afterthought. Make it part of your design from the get-go and make sure that people are involved in decisions that are going to be crucial to both your business and might again be benefited from integrating institutional knowledge and wisdom and like that accumulated expert knowledge of people with long tenures in a company to be part of them. Um, and as part of the leadership role, I think identifying the most critical decisions in your domain and just ensuring that they can never be fully automated is something to consider. And this might sound a little exaggerated, but I feel like if you can think of a decision that you think you are completely okay with completely automating, then it turns out that might not be as critical as you thought. By critical decisions, I mean critical business drivers that are always going to require some degree of knowledge or domain expertise that are currently provided by your most valuable contributors. Next, I want to talk about providing truthful feedback. So the easiest one for this is to mandate that AI provide the rationale or the top driving factors behind any critical recommendation. And this is actually easy to do. You can, alongside your prompt, alongside whatever you are feeding any sort of conversational based AI tool, you can ask for data that might back up that decision or any, again, prescriptive analysis that it might be doing, citations, confidence scores, data that was available in a document that you are referencing from the beginning, etc. And these will all help narrow that gulf of evaluation that I was talking about earlier. It is very easy to forget, and it's very easy to like blindly accept whatever the AI is giving us as a result. But if we can just very easily integrate all of these practices whenever appropriate into our day-to-day kind of interactions with AI tools, I feel that's going to go a long way towards at least trying to alleviate some of those issues regarding the lack of clear feedback and error states whenever we are interacting with an AI tool. On a leadership role, again, I feel like leveraging institutional and domain knowledge to and integrating it into your processes to make sure that an AI output is correct or it applies to the case at hand versus when it isn't is crucial to make sure that a process that is AI enabled is successful. And this connects back again to what I said earlier, right? Make that part of your process from the get-go, from the design stage. Let's not wait until something fails or until we realize that the AI messed up by giving some suggestion that wasn't really applicable to the context that it was being deployed in. And instead, let's have an expert be part of the process and drive the process from the beginning. The final strategy, I think this is the final one, is adjusting for oversight. So again, when we are like now doing knowledge sharing and we are doing trainings, which is something we constantly do, especially now with a variety of tools that are available for us, let's add emphasis not only on doing the task, but also critiquing AI outputs. So looking at outputs and being able to identify whether you are looking at something that looks successful or not is a crucial step. It's a new expert skill, just being able to validate. So in this new world or in this new mode, success comes from auditing and refining the AI's output again proactively throughout the process itself of generation of said output and not reactively as a purely, validation step at the very end. So again, investing in training that teaches how to prompt, validate, and govern the tools will help ensure preserve expert judgment. Oh, I seem to have deleted one of my examples. So I'm going to talk about it. Uh, as I mentioned, the example that I had for y'all was the turning the webinar, like the one that I'm talking about now, into a blog post. And this is something that actually happened. And I'm not calling anyone out, but there was an attempt for one of my previous webinars to turn it into a blog post. And the approach that they took at the beginning was the one that I just mentioned. They took the transcript and then fed it into the machine as a one single object. And then they basically asked, based off of this transcript, create a blog post and we will publish it right away. So instead of doing that, and I was very happy, I do have to um, give props for contacting me and showing me the blog post before it was published. And like this one, it had a lot of ideas. It had a lot of like multiple subjects it was juggling, and such in a way that the machine had or the AI model, what it had done was try to meld it up together. Um, and it had ended up with a hodgepodge of ideas in a way that didn't make much sense, wasn't as cohesive as I would have wanted it to be. It missed some of my key points that I maybe didn't emphasize enough in the presentation, and that's why it didn't come across in the result that we got from the AI. But then we can see how we could have done things differently, right? So instead of making it a one single step process, we could turn it into multiple steps, as I said. Depending on the complexity of the talk, we could, again, break it up into chunks that are linked semantically. So if there are three main points, we could have three sub-transcripts that we are going to feed to different prompts, right? And those prompts could be tweaked for each of those semantic fields. Like we could very easily say, hey, this transcript is all about engineering pipelines with AI components. So, make a summary that focuses on that, right? The specificity kind of gives us back some of control to us because we're the ones dictating what the result should look like. So we could do that both by segmenting the content as well as segmenting the work, segmenting the prompts themselves. Another step, which was taken for sure, was involving the person that had the expertise. So again, if someone had just read through the result and that someone was from marketing, or maybe they hadn't even seen the original webinar, they might have not identified that it was kind of misrepresenting the points from the original talk. So having the expert who gave the talk in this instance, or maybe even someone with some technical knowledge about the subject of the webinar that was being transcribed, would have flagged items for things that could have been improved, points that were missed, and emphasis that maybe, again, was misrepresenting what was said in the original talk. So that is, again, involving an expert was very good. Something else, of course, is not automatically publishing the result. You know, it's very easy for us to say, or for someone to imagine, hey, this is great. If we can enable this process, we can, again, create a pipeline that whenever a new video is uploaded to our account or YouTube account, then automatically that is going to be transcribed and it's going to go through this pipeline, even if it is segmented as I just described, and it's going to be published right away into our blog posts. And that is probably a terrible idea. You want to have some degree of evaluation somewhere in there to make sure that it aligns with corporate knowledge and it aligns with the whatever language style or writing style is acceptable for the blog. And finally, we might even want to add a step where we ask the AI to provide citations, even citations from the original script that was transcribed. It wouldn't surprise me if it wanted to reinforce one of the topics that we said, hey, this is about data engineering pipelines. So make sure that you are adding some strong emphasis on that point, and maybe it's making something up just because it thought there wasn't enough meat in the original transcript to really give it the emphasis. So maybe it made something up. Maybe it added some citation that we have to verify. And maybe we even added additional documents. Maybe, if I was the expert that is driving this process, I might say, hey, I was heavily inspired by this article here, which isn't explicitly said in the presentation, but I still want to add it to the webinar or to the webinar's blog post version. So, integrate it and make sure to let me know what you have integrated from it so that I can validate it more easily. And that's, again, going to narrow that gulf of evaluation that I was talking about earlier. And this, again, is a very simple example of a process that is not technical at all. Again, this is something that someone over at marketing might be doing or at education might be doing. And it can apply for so many other internal processes. Let's think about, again, interviews, right? If we want to speed up the interview process by, again, generating questions that are from specific technologies, right? So that we have a very healthy pool of questions. Let's have people that are experts, of which we have many, to validate all of those questions, to make sure that they flow appropriately, to make sure that they apply to whatever position is being they are interviewing for. Obviously, there is a lot of variation between the different clients and the different positions that we interview. So let's make sure that there is a human in the loop that makes sure to validate and verify all of those things that are being generated. And like this, I'm sure that many of you who are leaders, who work with processes, can relate to those questions that you have been having about how to use AI in your agile processes, your one-on-one reviews and meetings. Let's keep all of these pointers in mind to make sure that these processes are as successful and as easy to use and as non-disruptive for our autonomy as they can be. And with that, I think we can move on to the conclusion. And I do apologize for that missing slide. I don't know where that went, but we got through it anyway. So, as a conclusion and as a sort of a summary, we've seen historically automation move from physical labor delegation to more like logic-based processes, and now to expert-level decision making, where the outputs are often prescriptive in nature and require a lot of judgment and a lot of critical analysis in order for them to be sound, specifically when they apply to like critical business processes and require high amounts of context knowledge. Misunderstanding and mismanaging these tools can mean, again, sacrificing our value as experts and diluting that expert knowledge and judgment that we have accumulated over the years in a pool of, again, generic knowledge that may not be as useful. And there are ways to protect the essential function of human judgment against the impulse, again, of very easy solutions that are especially attractive given the way that these tools have been packaged and are portrayed. So what's the path forward? First of all, embrace the tools for speed and scale while retaining control. It is very easy, again, to push that lever and then see the autonomy go absolutely down. But there are ways in which we can push that lever and only see some of that autonomy in ways that are useful, in ways that are going to allow us to exercise our judgment in other parts, in more critical parts of the business and more critical parts of the processes. We have to design the way in which AI works within these processes very intentionally by using bounded tasks, human sign-offs, and offering as much explainability as possible. And again, we have to resist that inertia of just having the AI do it, especially when and whenever it, whatever it is, can be broken down into smaller tasks that we could orchestrate to give ourselves more control. So with that, thank you. That's been my presentation for today. I hope I've left you with some interesting thoughts on and reflections on how to build your processes. And once again, thank you so much for your time. As a reminder, you will be sent a feedback form, and I will be very happy to hear about your thoughts on this presentation.
Thank you, Sergio. I just shared the feedback form in the chat. And maybe if you guys have any questions, you can just raise your hands or leave them in the Q&A section, and I'll make sure that Sergio gets them so we can answer all of the doubts that you may have about the presentation. Okay, for now I see a lot of applauses, a lot of party icons as well. Oh, okay, we have one hand. I'm going to give you permission to talk. Emmanuel, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Uh, can you hear me, guys, now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sergio, really, really good talk. Thank you for all that. I just was wondering. I understand that we should be leading and continue keeping the expert and not convert the AI into the expert. But I'm wondering, what about I'm trying to learn something or I'm trying to do something where I'm not the expert, but I want to use the help of AI. What is your train of thought in that sense, or your recommendation?
Sure, absolutely. So I think everything's a spectrum, right? You have a lot of options, and I think my main point here is not restricting us to just use the AI. So going back, for example, to what I was talking about regarding like coming up with interview questions. There are many subjects that I am not aware of that I have had to interview on. So maybe there is a data engineering platform that I am not familiar with, and I want to come up with questions. I think there's a lot of ways to use AI in order to make that process easier without, again, like ceding that autonomy or giving it all to the power of the AI. So one option for me would be to go to someone that I know that is an actual expert about the subject. Let's say DBT, right? I'm not super knowledgeable about DBT, so I might go to one of the many experts that we have available and say, hey. I have to ask some questions about DBT. What do you think are the main subjects that I should be asking about? And then that person might say, A, B, and C. And with that in hand, I can go to the AI and say, hey, can you generate some questions about A, B, and C for me? And maybe make sure to provide what are some of the answers that you would expect in this scenario. Make sure to, give me some citations, maybe. What are some keywords that I want the interviewee to mention as part of the answer, and then I can go back to the expert and say, "Hey, here's the questions that they generated. Can you validate them for me?" And that's going to be a much quicker process than if I had asked the expert to, come up with the answers themselves. When it comes to education, I feel like that can is very easily apply. You can use as your base documents that have been actually written by humans. So you could grab one of the many books that we have in our library applying to GAP specifically. There's a lot of books in our kind of education library, so you could use that as a base and feed that into an AI tool and have that create a syllabus for you, or any of the many resources that there are now for education. And I think that when it comes to learning, as long as you can, again, verify the answers, ask for citations, make sure that there are source documents for whatever it is telling you. God knows that I've had many instances where I've asked for straight up code from models that are intended for generating code, and they still have messed up the name of a method or the name of some action that it had to execute on some obscure, maybe a little obscure or one outdated library, and I had to go double check it against the official documentation and such. So it's all about applying some skepticism, and also keeping in mind that it's just one of the many tools that there are available. And you, again, can involve it as part of a process rather than say, all right, I'll just ask for a syllabus, ask for the entirety of the information that I need to know, and I'm just going to assume that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Makes
no
a lot
problem.
of sense.
Hey guys, is there any other question, any other comment? Um, Remember that I just shared the feedback form in the chat in case you'd like to give us your feedback. It helps us a lot to keep improving these events. And right, I think we don't have any other questions for now. Thank you, Sergio, so much for that very, very important talk in these times of just giving everything to AI. I think it's a very important topic that we discuss this. And thank you guys to everyone that joined today. Remember, to the ones that are part of GAP, that we will have our last talk of the Leadership and Agile Summit tomorrow. So I'll be very happy to see you guys there. And to everyone that's not a part of GAP, thank you for joining as well. Thank you for learning a little bit more about our company and culture. And see you guys in the next event. Thank you again, Sergio.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity once again.
Guys, bye-bye. Okay,
Bye.
sorry, we do have a question. Oh, yes, very helpful. Can I have the recording? Yes, if you're not part of GAP, the recording will be sent via email. If you are part of GAP, it will be held within our hub. Okay, so I'll make sure to just maybe leave a little message once it is uploaded.
And there will very
So,
probably be a blog post version at some point.
oh yeah, yeah. Okay, guys. So thank you so much, and see you in the next one. Bye bye. Thank you, Sergio, again.
Bye.